It's Pete from Cheap Homesteading, and today we're starting to do a little bit of chainsaw milling. I need a bunch of wood for the barn. I need a frame in the front, so I need a bunch of rough cut 2x4s. I need to cut new sill boards for the bottom of the walls because they're kind of rotten, and we'll probably try to use hickory for those. I just knew there wasn't enough time if I wanted to finish the barn this year to cut all the wood with the Alaskan Sawmills. I talked to a friend that has a bandsaw mill, and he's cutting me a bunch of wood. But at least with the Alaskan Sawmill, I can cut the rough cut 2x4s for the front of the barn and the sill boards. And then after that, I'm going to cut some basswood, and because it's easy to cut, and use it for forms and when we pour the concrete. So it's going to be a busy next few weekends, but hopefully we can get all the wood cut we need, and then we can move on to actually working on the barn. So let's go. So this is what I got. It's a nice size cedar, but it actually goes down to a smaller size pretty quickly. So I had to be careful on the length of the boards I want out of it, because if you cut big boards out of this, this end of the log gets small quick. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to try to cut at least 6 rough cut 12-foot 2x4s. A few people asked me about the plates I use. Basically all I did was I got 2 pieces of steel this size, welded them together, drilled all the holes in the same spot, marked out where my bars are going to go, and I cut them out. It's not perfect, but it's pretty close. And if you mark one side, you know this side goes to the outside, so each side will be exactly the same. So they're really not perfect, but they're pretty close, really. Okay, so this side here, I want to grab the corner as okay, so you get a level. Make sure that it is level. Put in another screw. I got the guides installed. We're ready for our first cut. First thing you do is make sure that the chainsaw mill will fit over the log. If it won't, you gotta thin out the log a little bit, especially on the thick end. Man, it looks like it's about to rain. Hopefully it bypasses us. Man, that looks good. I forgot my wedges, so I'm using sticks. But that came out really nice. Okay, so that doesn't get any better than that. There's barely any marks. There's a little bit here, here. But that is perfect. Let's try out the edging mill and see how that does. One thing I've noticed about the edging mill now is, man, it really doesn't take very much time to actually put the next guide on. And you can kind of see where your cut's going to be. So what I'm doing is, the cut won't be perfect on this 2x4, but I'm going to try to save as much of that board as I can. And same with this. I feel that that's where it probably should be. I need to get shorter screws. This is the first time I used my Johnson Red 325 on my new edging mill from Princess Auto. I've only had a chance to really cut firewood with it for the last little bit. We put about 3 or 4 tanks through it. I would have liked to run it a whole lot more before we put it on the chainsaw mill, because chainsaw mills are hard on chainsaws, but you know what? I'm kind of itchy to try it, and I think it's broken in enough anyways. I mixed the gas with a little more oil in it, and we are ready to go. So let's go. That cut through like butter. My homemade ripping chain, I don't know how smooth it cuts. Maybe when I cut through more the center of the tree, it'll be a lot smoother, but I wouldn't say that's smooth. But we'll give that a try. That's through the sappy part of the tree, so that might be different. Oh my gracious. I'll show you what happened. I guess I was pushing on the saw too much or something, and I turned this and it contacted the metal right here. Oh, you can actually, it took some metal off. You really shouldn't push on the chainsaw. I should be pushing on here. I think that's what it is. I'm pushing on the saw and it's moving. I'm just gonna have to keep an eye on that. I tightened it back up again to cut the rest, but it really didn't cut the same after I hit that. I'm gonna have to sharpen the chain up. So this is what the plan is. I haven't used this type of sawmill that much, but I'm thinking I've basically marked off a 2x4 width here, and I'm going to continue to move this board over. When I'm cutting with the saw, I don't want it to cut all the way through. Here it will, but most of the log, it'll stay intact. I'll continue to move the board over until I cut all my 2x4s, and then I'll use my then I use the Alaskan Sawmill just to cut the boards loose. I'm thinking I'm going to get 6 2x4s out of that. So one thing I did learn about this type of mill, you really do need a dust mask. I'm using one of those base camp masks. I really wanted to use it on one of those chainsaw mills. This one is perfect because, man, it throws the dust up. You really should wear a dust mask doing this. Breathing that in is no good. So there you go. I'm going to set my Alaskan Sawmill to 4 inches, and then I should have 10 rough cut 2x4s. That edging mill works absolutely awesome. This really does speed up the process. That is the way to cut 2x4s with Alaskan Sawmill for sure. That is incredible. So there you go. I pretty well have 5 perfect 2x4s. And then I got about 2 or 3 that came off the bottom that are next to perfect. And then I have a few that I'll have to use the end of them. It wasn't good the whole way. So there's about 2 that are really bad, 3 that are kind of mediocre, but the rest absolutely look awesome. You know, I'm actually very impressed with that. This was a quick test for the Princess Auto edging mill, and it was a complete success. Super happy with how it worked. I think the Alaskan Sawmill with the edging mill really does speed up the process, and you end up with 2x4s like that. There is nothing wrong with that. So that's about enough for today. You guys have a good one.